Hello, hello, hello again, and welcome back for another edition of Political Breakfast right here on WAVE. We're always glad to have you here, our loyal listeners, and we hope we're bringing in new ones week after week as well. Tharon and Brian are both here. Happy new week to you, or should I call you what? Two Rolling Stones fans. What do they call? What do they officially call Rolling Stones fans?
I don't know. I was
Stoneheads.
There was a lot of folks who had gathered some moss. I can tell you that much as far as Rolling Stones sayings go. It was sponsored. The event Friday was sponsored by AARP, which tells you all you need to know. They were like AARP, like photo booths.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So that gives you an idea of the demographic. I was there. I'm a year away from eligibility for membership, but I was there.
Ooh, but Mick Jagger looks good. I saw the pictures. He looks good. And still moving strong, isn't he? Tharon, you were there too, right?
Tharon was a demographic outlier there, but he was there.
Yeah.
Look, yes, we were there, and thank you to our great hosts who invited us. You know, Lisa, it was, to me, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because I'd never seen the Rolling Stones before, and I started listening to songs the night before, and I was like out of 9 songs, I was like, oh man, they do sing that song. but Brian, you're right. I was definitely an outlier. I think I counted less than a dozen people of color at the event.
Yep.
But it was safe. And I didn't think I smelled any weed smoke, but B-Rob confirmed there was a little marijuana
going on.
I spent the entire concert in a cloud of marijuana where I was, but I think I had much cheaper seats than Tharon did. I'll say this, and this has actually gotten some media coverage. And, well, let me start with this. Tharon called me Saturday. We were talking about Dornock winning the Belmont State because we know some of the owners. Mm-hmm. And so he's talking about going, and he was saying, like, he wasn't very familiar with the Stones, but wanted to go because they're historic and all that. And he said, he goes, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. I couldn't understand their accents, what Mick was saying, which is fair. I really couldn't hear a lot of it either.
They said the acoustics, though, were really bad as well.
Yeah. And I'm a fan of, Lil Baby and 21 Savage, the rappers we talked about on this podcast, who does sometimes mumble their words and don't use the best diction or enunciation. When I tell you, Lisa, I did not understand what he was saying. And then what was the guitarist's name? The famous one, B-Rob, with the green.
Keith Richards.
I mean, poor guy. The crowd went crazy when he did his little solo. But I couldn't understand a word he was saying. All I heard was this loud guitar. And people were just jumping up, throwing their hands in the air. And China and I, we were just doing the same thing. We were just just follow the white people, just do exactly what they're doing. But usually the concerts that I go to, Lisa, and nothing against my culture, the rap, hip hop culture. Yeah. It's a little bit more rowdy, a little less standing, and people were just so orderly. And then the first thing I noticed, I was like, man, there's no weed smoke, but apparently white people get just as high at Rolling Stones concerts than we do at Future and Gucci Mane concerts, and so it was a good time.
Did you go to one of the public bathrooms? I mean, it was. You would have thought you were at a Bob Marley concert.
Oh, really?
Right. We came in. We went straight to the suite. You're right. We had good seats. I did notice a lot of people kind of walking back and forth, and we were completely overdressed too, Lisa. Let me tell you something. You ever been to a Rolling Stones concert? Flip-flops, shorts, and a t-shirt. Totally fine.
As you are
fitting right in. But no, I didn't go to the bathroom. So is that where it was going on?
Well, no, we had it in the stands too.
Okay.
But speaking of Tharon being a demographic outlier, one thing that got in the media coverage was they did this little bit where they had 4 songs up on the big screen, right? And we wanted to do. We had this is the fan choice song pick, and we wanted to do Wild Horses, but it was 11,000 votes short. And so we're going to do Sweet Virginia. That was the one that won by 11,000 votes. Yeah. And I was like, ooh, man. I was like, buddy, understand you were in a surrounded by 70,000 60 to 80-year-old white people in the South. Know your audience.
There were probably a lot of Trumpsters in there. He did plug voting, and he turned away, and he definitely said we want everyone to vote. He didn't say who to vote for. But to B-Rob's point, though, it was some booing, and some people called it late because they were probably drunk and high. But he definitely segued on from the voting. But no, listen, shout out to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The roof being open was amazing.
Oh,
Even though
wow.
the acoustics were
Wow,
bad, it was still a
really?
great
Okay.
show,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it. I mean, seriously, it's a once in a lifetime thing, and I've
really
been
is.
listening to Rolling Stones. My neighbors are probably tired of hearing "Start Me Up," and you don't always get what you want. Yeah.
You don't know the music, you know Mick Jagger, and you know, just to see him perform is pretty iconic in itself.
Yes, it is.
Well, here we are, a Monday after the Stones concert, and a week after the city was plagued with that major water outage, and some are still saying that there's going to be major political fallout from that because of what happened. And I just want to get your thoughts on that, because you know it happened. It's been fixed, apologies have been made, and a vow to make the system better. So is there really more to come after this? Tharon, I'll begin with you, and then Brian.
You know, I think the media, Lisa, has, for some reason, and I think, you know, Brian and I kind of maybe have good guesses of the reasons, but for some reason, they really zeroed in on this operational sort of issue that the city sort of did the best that they could to deal with. You know, one of the things that I've heard from last week's show, and by the way, the mayor, his team, residents, and businesses listened to our podcast last week. So let me just kind of go through really quickly what I've heard. The businesses. I did not understand the impact, Lisa. I mean, I've talked to business owners, restaurants, barbershops, beauty salons, people who office spaces, you know, corporations had to basically shut down their offices in Midtown because they did not only not have running water, it was also a safety component to the water that they were going to drink, because the boil water advisory kind of went out later. And so I totally underestimated. I'll just come on the podcast a week later and say the impact that it had to people. I mean, I've talked to restaurants that lost $25,000 to $30,000. And one thing that we really kind of glossed over unintentionally, Lisa, is that this happened on a Friday. So that weekend crowd, that weekend rush was it. But here's why I want to compliment the mayor. He is still working on it. You know, I made a comment that my wife woke up, and I posted so much on social media, Lisa, because I wanted to help the mayor. I wanted to make sure that the watershed commissioner, Al Wiggins, that I did my part to over communicate with the public. And so I was reposting, posting, you know, and updating the constituents as much as we could about when the water was going to be turned back on, to make sure they understood, you know, the areas that were impacted. And so we all kind of stepped up and rallied behind this administration. Now going forward, what the mayor is continuing to do, along with his watershed commissioners and others, is saying, hey, this is now going to be a group effort. We're going to work with the federal government. I know B. Rob is going to talk about the money gun that the Biden administration has been shooting off. The state, from what I'm hearing, you know, B. Rob Abated, the state has stepped in. You know, Governor Kemp, got to give him credit. He didn't pounce on the mayor. He said, hey, we're here to help. And so now you're going to have to look at the water system. You have to look at the sewer system. Improvements are going to continue to be made. But I guarantee you this, going forward, you will see water outages. They're going to have to stop certain places from getting water temporarily to really make sure they can create a long-term systemic plan. And then lastly, he's put together a commission that's going to be led by former Mayor Shirley Franklin. Katie Kilpatrick is going to be on that committee as well, and others. And so I want to make sure that folks, you know that that's something that's going to be talked about, and they're going to learn from these lessons, Lisa. But also, I think the mayor is going to be very, very transparent about the best path forward.
Yeah. So being proactive. So I don't know, Brian, what are your thoughts? I mean, it can only go up from here, right?
Yeah. One thing that Mayor Dickens said was, I didn't create the problem, but it is my problem. And he's absolutely right. That's the right mindset. He is the executive, and I hope that this becomes a major goal of his administration to get this aging infrastructure updated bit by bit. It cannot be done in one bite of the apple. You know, you eat an elephant one spoonful at a time. And I think that's the approach you have to take here with this. You know, Atlanta's got infrastructure that goes back into the 1800s. And so this is a big project. I am really glad to see that Governor Kemp has stepped up to the plate to do something here, because this is not a localized issue. This is a statewide issue. Atlanta is the horse that pulls the cart economically. And that's true if you live in Gwinnett and Forsyth and Cobb and North Fulton and Clayton counties. And then beyond there, this is the economic engine for the state, and we've got to keep it in order. People are already beginning to think about, well, we got the eyes of the world coming here in 2 years when the World Cup arrives. we got to be ready. And we got to have the red carpets rolled out, and they can't be soaked with water when we do it. And this has got to go well. We've got to nail the landing on this performance, and getting some of this done at the biggest problem spots. As former city council president Kathy Willard said, it's going to be a triage operation. She's absolutely right.
But you agree, both of you, that the city is moving in the right direction, and we're not going to see a whole lot of finger pointing at Mayor Dickens anymore and things of that nature.
Well, I'll start off by saying that the media particularly has taken a special interest in this, Lisa, and I'm a little disappointed with some of the reporting. When I see debacle being used and I see, them really kind of piling on, I think that's a little unfair to the mayor. Now, he's a big boy. He don't need me to come on this podcast and defend him, right? But I do think I have to do my part to say that the media plays a role in this. Now, I was surprised to find out, Lisa, that there were 5 press releases that was sent out on the Friday that the water main broke. And B-Rob knows this, is that you can send stuff to the press, but it's all about how they report it. There was robocalls that went out to residents. Yeah. I also learned that the website crashed. And so if you have a confluence of website not working, media sort of getting information but not kind of reporting out, and then you didn't really have social media robust, all of these things are going to be fixed. And they're going to make sure that they're right going forward. But one thing, I think that Kathy Willard, we keep talking about her name, we're giving her some free advertisement on this show, B-Rob. We need to send her an invoice. And she's a capitalist too. Is that we got to make sure that going forward that the public knows what the mayor inherited. Like a lot of mayors have been dealing with sewer and water issues. Shirley Franklin was known as the sewer mayor.
Shirley Franklin, right.
And that was 2 mayors ago. Kasim came in and did some things. Keisha even did some things, right, to try to improve it. But now, mark my word, mark this date. If Mayor Dickens does what I think he's going to do, he can spin this, Lisa, and it could be a big, big part of his legacy going forward in a positive way.
Now, wow. I totally agree. Crisis presents opportunity. Wow. And it is in these moments that politicians' reputations are made. We can think through the years at politicians who seize the moment. In 1994, for example, Zell Miller was up for re-election, and even though he has got iconic, beloved status in the state today, this was a moment in time where the state was changing politically. A lot of the old Democrat voters were becoming Republicans. And Zell was sort of caught in that transition, the transition that eventually took out Roy Barnes 8 years after this. But there was a big flood down in southwest Georgia, and Zell Miller went out there and was in the helicopter flying over, was getting involved in the recovery, was very visible, showed leadership, and then went on to win by a very narrow margin in that election over Guy Milner, a very wealthy Atlanta businessman who put a lot of his own money into the race. A lot of people point to that recovery effort as a turning point in that election for Zell Miller. We saw the same thing for Governor Chris Christie in New Jersey. When Obama came in right before Christie's reelection, the hurricane that just come through and devastated New Jersey, that really put a lot of gas in Christie's tank, which probably made a lot of Democrats mad at Obama for coming in and doing all that work with Chris Christie. So these are opportunities, and I think I can't speak for Andre's base. Tharon can do that. Tharon knows that much better than I do. These the folks that put him in office. I can speak to some degree to the Buckhead crowd, and they've got a pretty good feeling toward Andre Dickens. I know Republicans are a very small minority in the city of Atlanta, but they appreciate his stand, courageous stand on the Public Safety Training Center. He's right on it, and I think the majority of the city strongly supports his position. And he's got goodwill because he came in and was very visible on public safety. And that was their demand, like make our neighborhoods safer. Our cars are being broken into, our houses are being broken into, our children are in danger, do something, and he did. So he's got a lot of goodwill. So I don't think that this is something people blame Andre Dickens for. I think they know that these problems existed long before him. He's got goodwill to begin with. But here's where the crisis presents not an opportunity but a challenge, is it can't happen again. Right? They can't have a situation where 5 to 6 days people are are without water. And we're, again, getting national negative attention for infrastructure that's not standing up to our needs. So that's the challenge. That's the balance here. But I think politically, Andre's in really good shape going into his reelection year. We're not even hearing names of people, at least not beyond small political circles, looking to challenge him. I mean, I'm sure Tharon heard some names. I have not. I'm a few layers out of that. But the fact that no one is out there like seizing the moment to go, I'm running against Andre Dickens. This is a disaster. He wasn't here. Where's Andre? Nobody's doing that, right? That shows you the strength of his current position.
You're not hearing names, are you, Tharon?
No, I mean, but you're going to have some folks that may run. I mean, look, we want to be a politics sort of podcast that maybe breaks news. Look, no one that I know specifically, and let's also just deal with this, right? The mayor left town on Friday to go to a fundraiser because he has a re-election coming up. And there were many people who took to social media to defend the mayor. One being Kelly English, who is the wife of Courtney English. You know Kelly, and if you know Kelly, she definitely put out a disclaimer. Hey, this is me, Kelly English, saying it's not my husband. But we had to push back on this whole notion that a mayor of a major city who's coming up for re-election can't raise money outside of Atlanta. So no major names have kind of come up, but I definitely think you'll have someone probably run against him, and I think the mayor welcomes that. I mean, he's definitely in a good position. Yeah. And happy birthday, by the way, to the mayor. He's turning 50
got
this
a big
week.
Party this week.
Yeah.
Sure
He didn't go to one party. He that was a good choice, Mayor Dickens. You know which one I'm talking about. He stayed home and it was good. And he has a birthday party coming up this week. And he'll have a 50th birthday fundraiser. And B-Rob, if you're in town, let me know. I'm sure the mayor will welcome Republicans from Brookhaven to his event.
To wish him happy
birthday. I don't know. Tharon and I...
We need you to write a check now. We need you to write a check.
Yes, that could get tricky. But no, I love Andre Dickens. I don't know when it is, but Tharon and I do have some business travel together this week. We're going to be going down to Orlando to speak to the credit unions regional conference down there. Looking forward to being with them. I think Andre Dickens is in really strong shape right now, and I'll end it this little bit with him with this. Again, crisis creates opportunity. If he's able to get through this and is able to show like solutions, and solutions often look like orange barrels around a hole with workers, fixing something in a timely fashion. If he's able to make serious progress on that, that becomes the kind of Mr. Fix-It brand that could be powerful and catapult him into sort of statewide office ambitions. Obviously, he's somebody who's got name ID already, is built in a city of Atlanta mayor. But if he pulls this off and is able to put it in the right direction, I think it's a good launching pad for him.
We'll see. Things change, and hopefully that is true for the mayor. Something interesting happened Sunday night during the runoff debates here in Atlanta. Georgia Congressional candidate Chuck Hand, who served some prison time for taking part in the January 6th U.S. Capitol riot, just walked out of the Atlanta Press Club debate over the weekend.
Now, this is where I get back in my truck and head back to Southwest Georgia because I got two races to win.
Thank you very much. You're not staying, sir? Are you leaving? Okay.
A lot of people think it was staged, what have you, but I'm sure you all have heard about it or even saw it. So what are your thoughts on that?
I want to start by saying I appreciate that when he did this walkout, he wasn't dressed the way he was in the U.S. Capitol. Because when he was in the Capitol, for which he spent time in prison, he was wearing a Georgia Bulldogs hat. And I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate the representation there of my dogs. I'm glad he wasn't wearing any Bulldog paraphernalia when he did his walkout, because that's not cool. Yeah, this is totally staged, right? I thought the other candidate, whose name none of us know, handled it fairly well. Like, is this guy just quitting the race? Look, here's the bottom line. Let's enjoy this moment of levity with these two in this debate. The fact is, this is for the 2nd Congressional District Republican nomination. The incumbent down there is Sanford Bishop, who's now been there probably close to 35, 36 years. And Sanford is a bit of an institution down there. And 2 years ago, the Republicans had a serious candidate who raised serious money and had a professional team around him. The Washington Republicans saw him as a serious contender, poured some D.C. money into that race. We really gave it our all, did a strong push in 2022, and still lost by 10 points. So that gives you an indication somewhat of where the politics in the district are. And I don't know, I think the election for president down there is not going to be a 10-point swing like that. But it just shows the strength of Sanford Bishop. He's obviously getting not only all of the Democratic base, he's crossing over into independents and maybe even some Republicans down there in the agriculture community, which is the number one industry in that part of the state, who appreciate his leadership on some of those issues. So let's not miss the big picture here is that this is a little bit of theatrics, but for nominees who are not going to be going to Congress.
Lisa, I don't have much to add to what B. Rob said. I mean, that was it was a terrific infomercial for Congressman Sanford Bishop, who I had the honor and pleasure of flying to D.C. with. And that congressman sits in coach. I mean, I felt bad. I was in Delta Con for him and his beautiful wife walked past me and sat in coach, and he's up and running and moving. But no, for the sake of time, B. Rob is right. Look at the tone and tenor of where it was 2 years ago. Brian is very, most of the time honest, balls and strikes when it comes to these races. But these candidates are just laughable with some of the things that they're doing. And January 6th, real quick, always stands out to this podcast because we were on this show taping when we were
live. We were
starting unfolding.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We were live
Starting
when the
unfolding.
insurrection was occurring. And I just think that, we just need to be reminded that did happen. And there are people like this man who were arrested, who committed a crime, and now is running for office and, making news by disrupting a what's supposed to be civil, debate amongst peers to be able to articulate their stances on issues. And so, but no, I think Congressman Bishop's in a good position, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure he's reelected.
All right. Well, we'll end on that note this time around. Thank you both for being here. You guys, you said you're going to Orlando to talk to what? A credit union? What do two strategists have to tell? What will you be saying to the Credit Union Association in Orlando?
So I'll go Brian first, but a shout out to Cindy, who runs the Georgia Credit Union. So it's actually a coalition of different credit unions from around the states, not just Georgia, right, B. Rob? I think it's Mississippi, Alabama, the Carolinas.
Okay.
And so every year, Lisa, Brian and I, we do sort of that legislative kickoff. And so now that's morphed into us. We went to the Westin Hotel recently when they had a lot of the great people there. And now they're having us come to Orlando, to a place I've never been before, a really nice resort down there. And we're going to be talking to this group. So the thing I enjoy about it, just a quick plug to them, is that the audience is usually predominantly white men, and that's a lot of my trips now, Lisa. By the way, Brian don't ever go to. Let me see. Brian doesn't ever go to the AKA or the African American Association of Journalists events with me, right? I'm always going to manufacturer events. Shout out to Brittany, who's a big fan of this podcast. Brittany texted me last week. So credit union folks, right? You ready? We Rob, no, I'm not lying. About 75, 80% white male. You do have some white women there, a few people of color. But the group is always amazing because I think that they play such a pivotal role in the community by helping people get access to their dreams and their, changing opportunities for their families through lending and through teaching them how to build wealth and credit. And so these banks, credit unions, many of whom, a lot of times you go there because of their access and their flexibility to help you with your businesses and your family. But it's a really good group that we always speak to. But I know Brian wants to say a few things too.
No, we don't talk about
politics.
We talk about politics, and it's always a wonderful group. We're always very well received. Looking forward to seeing the bigger group down in Orlando this week. And again, Sydney Terrell, she does her government relations. She's a huge fan of the show, and she's always so gracious. We appreciate her having us. So, if your industry group is having a Capitol Day next year, you give us a call. We'll come see you. We're very reasonably priced.
Yeah.
You can tell AKA there, and I'll come. You know my price structure.
All right. That's what makes you two so unique, and so proud to have you on Political Breakfast. We'll do it again later this week. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, guys.
Happy birthday, Mayor Dickens.